Hello everyone, myself Priyanka, and today we are back again in this channel to complete our lecture on the approaches to the study of political theories or Indian politics. Okay. So in our previous lectures we were dealing with the normative approaches to the study of Indian politics or the normative approaches to the study of political theories, right. So in normative or traditional approaches, we knew that we include values and ethics and then we study. So in that kind of approach, we already dealt with two types of approaches, that is the philosophical and historical approach. Today we will be dealing about other three types of approaches. Okay, what are the other three types of approaches in normative approach to the study of Indian politics? So the other three types of approaches are the institutional approach, comparative approach and the legal approach. These three approaches we will be covering today, okay, and then further we will be discussing more about it. So let us come to the point, that is institutional approach. So in this kind of approach, the political scientist or the student who is studying the political theory ignores all other factors other than the political institution. Okay, that is, in this institutional approaches, only the political institutions are considered as the sphere of study. Okay, in the area of study only these are considered, and we continue with it. The other factors that are affecting and organizing these institutions are ignored. Okay, that is the individuals who are organizing the formal institutions, or the individuals who are not even involved in the formal institutions but are somehow influencing it. We ignore the factors and we consider only the factors of institutions. Institutions as such, we consider the High Court, Supreme Court, Parliament, okay, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. We only study these kinds of institutions and we ignore the factors, individuals, the interest group, pressure groups, whoever, informal or formal, whoever are influencing these institutions, and what kind of decision these institutions are taking, what kind of results and conclusions these institutions are giving us, the output it is giving, the input that is affecting, everything we ignore. Okay, we consider only the institutions, its working and the people directly involved in these institutions. Okay, so these are some of the writings that will be helpful in the institutional approaches studies. Okay, please note, and then we will proceed further. And also, as we know, if something is having its pros, it will definitely have its cons too. So the critiques of the institutional approach is that it is very narrow, right? It is a very narrow of an approach and it ignores a lot of factors that is actually affecting the institution. So it will not give us the exact conclusion that we are expecting from any kind of study. Okay, so it will not give us the complete conclusion to any topic. So this is one of the critique and the biggest critique of this institutional approach. Okay, so our next approach from the normative approach, that is traditional approach, is the comparative approach. Okay, so now what do we understand by the meaning comparative approach? From its very name it is clear that whenever we study any society or any theory from the comparative approach, okay, what we exactly do is we consider a set of historical events, we consider a set of logics, ideologies, facts, okay, in our society, in our field of study, and then we compare each events. Okay, we compare all the events, we compare all the facts, ideologies, states, anything that we have taken into consideration of our field of study. Okay, we compare all of them and then we try to come to a conclusion by taking insights from all the set of events. Okay, we try to come to a conclusion, that is basically we are trying to solve the problem or the issue of today by comparing the ideologies that is existing in our society, the events that has already happened in the past. Okay, So by comparing all the events, facts and ideologies, we basically try to come to the conclusion of our problem, the problem that we have right now, the issues that we want to tackle right now. Okay, so we in this comparative approach basically come to a conclusion, come to a result or output by comparing a set of events or ideologies, okay, all the facts. The biggest example of the comparative approach is our Indian Constitution. We already know that our Indian Constitution is formulated by taking insights from a number of other constitutions, right? So our the advisor of Constituent Assembly, Mr. B.N. Rao, actually took insights from a number of countries' constitution and then finally included a number of laws, a number of rights and everything from those constitutions which he deemed it necessary to be included as per Indian society. So this is one of the very good and big example of comparative approach of study, where we actually compare and see what is good, what is bad, and we basically take we take out, or we basically select the best part out of all the comparisons and include in our field of study and come to a conclusion. We know that Indian Constitution has taken a number of laws, a number of rights, and a number of directive principles and everything from a number of countries' constitution. For example, it has also taken insights from Irish Constitution, from USSR's constitution, from France's constitution, from Japan's, and etc. So we already know this, and this is the exact meaning of the comparative approach. Okay, so our next and the last approach from the traditional approach, last type of approach from the traditional approach is the legal approach, right? So legal approach basically is a mixture of law with institutional studies. What did I say? That whenever we are studying any topic from the legal approach, then what we actually include in our field of study, we include the laws that is existing, we remain stuck to the laws, and we remain stuck to the functioning of the institution by the help of the laws. Now again, it is very narrow aspect, right? Example of it is that whenever we are studying the functions or the output of the Parliament of India, then we will take into consideration only the laws that is written in our constitution, because the Parliament is working on the laws of the constitution. Okay, so in our field of study we will including the constitution and the member of parliaments. We will exclude the media that is also influencing the member of the parliaments. We will exclude the protest that is taking place in the society, that is definitely affecting the decision making of our member of parliaments. We will exclude everything, and what we will only include, along with institutions, we will include the laws of our society, laws of our country. Okay, this is the meaning of legal approach. So these are some of the writings in the legal approach, right? That is quite helpful, and it definitely comes in the examination. So please note, and then we will proceed further. Now we come to the next part of our lecture, that is the empirical approach or the modern approaches to the study of Indian politics or to the study of political theory in India, right? So first approach is the sociological approach. Now we understand that from the previous approaches that only political factors do not constitute of the entire state. There exist also the social factors which is actually influencing the political factors, and hence there is any kind of political output, right? We have understood this fact by now. Now in this kind of approach, what do we mean by sociological approach? By its very name it is clear that whenever we study any topic from sociological approach, then we consider more of a social factor than of the political factors in our area of study, right? The political scientists of these approaches definitely believe that any country is more of a social institution than of a political institution. That is, We have social institutions and therefore we have the political institutions, right? These social institutions are mainly influencing the political institutions, and hence there is need of studying the politics. So, whenever we are trying to actually evaluate any kind of political activity, we first need to read, we first need to analyze the social factors that is affecting it, right. For example, there are a number of dominating classes and castes that exist in our society, right. And when we say the word dominating, that means there is no equality. But if we study anything from legal approach, that means our constitution says that the aim of our Indian parliament is to actually retain equality in our country. So, if constitution has said that, and if parliament is working exactly on the will of the constitution, therefore in a democratic society like India, equality must persist, right. This is the meaning whenever we study anything from the legal approach. But the sociological approach says that until and unless these dominant classes are existing in our society, the equality cannot be retained, right. So, when we start to study anything from social institution, right, whenever we start studying the social institution that is actually affecting the political institutions, we come to a different kind of conclusion. We actually come to a scientific conclusion, right. We come to a scientific conclusion. Scientific means that is logical, that is not just based on emotions, values, right. So, this is what the sociological approach actually means and defines, that whenever we study any field or any society from sociological approach, we will consider more of the social institution and we will consider less of the political institution. We will make a balance between them and then study. These are some of the writings of the sociological approach, right. That will be helpful in the study of sociological approach, please note, and then we will proceed further. So, our next approach in the empirical approaches is the systems approach. So, by systems approach we mean that whenever we are studying any society, any topic, any institution, whatever we are studying, from systems approach we basically consider, right, the entire system. Entire system means a system consists of input and output. So, entire system means that the sociological environment where the politics is happening or the politics is taking place, and also the performance of the government there, also the performance of the institutions that we are trying to study, right, in our area of study. So, this systems approach basically deals with all kinds of factors that is existing or that is influencing the government out there. But we are basically studying the institutions of the government only, okay, that and the entire environment also that is putting the input into the performance of the government. We study about them. So, we see the major political scientists who have written and who have actually spoken in the systems approach is David Easton and G.A. Almond, right. So, they only mention it, right, that a system, whenever we talk of a system, we pre-assume that the system is comprehensive. System is comprehensive, boundaries exist in the system, then there exists interdependency in the system, right. Boundaries exist. What do we understand by boundary is existing in a system? Whenever we say that there exists boundary in a system, we mean that a point where the social institution is ending, exactly from their point the political institution is starting, right. That means we are able to identify which are the social factors and which are the political factors. This is the meaning of existence of boundaries in the system as talked by J. A. Alman, right? So, these are the three factors that we pre-assume in a system that exist whenever we study any kind of society or any kind of theory from the systems approach. Okay. This is one of the writing that could be quite helpful, or that shows the biasness towards the system approach, right? That is Myron Wayne's State Politics in India. Now, we come to our next kind of approach in the modern approach, that is the behavioral approach, right. So, in behavioral approach, that is whenever we are studying any topic from the behavioral approach, then we actually consider the behavior of individuals. Okay, we do not consider any kind of institution, we do not consider any other factors that is affecting, nor groups. Okay, because the political scientists of this approach believe that anything that is happening in the society is because of the ideologies of the individual, is because of the behaviors of the individuals, not even ideology up to a great extent, but only because of the behavior of the individuals, and the behavior automatically comes from the ideology. That is but not discussed in this behavioral approach. In the behavioral approach, only we consider the behaviors of the individual or the group of the individuals. Okay. So, in behavioral approach, we see a very important perspective, that is of David Easton. David Easton said that whenever we are studying in a behavioral approach, as it is an empirical approach, that is a scientific approach, a modern approach, we need to follow certain criteria for studying any topic from the behavioral approach. Now, what are those criteria as mentioned by David Easton? So, according to David Easton, whenever we are studying any topic from the behavioral approach, okay, there should be proper set of criteria of studying it. Okay, the behavioral approach should have these features, because behavioral approach is an empirical, that is scientific approach. So, whenever we study anything in science, that is whenever we conduct a scientific research, we take it in a proper set of criteria. We have a proper set of criteria through which we implement it, through which we conduct it. So, this behavioral approach, that is political research, should also have a proper set of criteria. So, very first criteria of this behavioral approach is that there should be regularity of events. That is, we should find out, we should analyze that whatever event that we are taking into consideration in our field of study has a proper frequency, that is, it is repeating after specific period of time, right? We need to understand this, we need to see this. Then there comes systematization, that is there should be a proper system of studying or conducting any political research. There should be proper organization, okay, it should be organized. There should be a proper technique, that is mathematical data collecting technique should be included in our political research, right? Then we have verification, that is whatever data we are collecting should be verifiable, right? That is, it should be in such a form that in future if we need to verify it, whether it is a reliable method, whether it is a reliable data or not, we could verify it. So, whatever data we are collecting should be verifiable. Now, next what he says is that in this approach of study there should be integrity. The meaning of integrity by David Easton is that the approach of study should be interdisciplinary. That means it should not be only stuck to, it should not be only limited to the political field of study. That is, we could take help from the philosophical approach also, we could take help from the sociological approach also, that is the other from the other subjects also, from the other fields of study we could take help. There should be interdependency between the disciplines of study. Okay. Now, by measurement he means that whatever data we are collecting, okay, should be measured. that is, we know that whenever we are studying anything from politics aspect, that is not quantitative, the data is always qualitative, but that qualitative data should also be measured. That is, we should not rely on only one kind of data or only one set of data. There should be a set of large data that is actually supporting our behavioral approaches study. That is, the data should be quantified, measured. Then there should be value neutrality. By value neutrality, we mean that the political scientist who is studying any topic through behavioral approach should not apply their value or ethics in the field of study. The data should be presented as it is collected. Okay, there should not be any kind of value added by the political scientist or by the researcher. Okay, then we have pure science, that is, the characteristic of behavioral approach should be like we are studying a pure scientific research. Okay, when we will include all these methods in our behavioral approaches study, it will automatically become a pure science. These are some of the writings that could be helpful in the study of the behavioral approach. Please note, and then we'll proceed further. So our last type of approach in the empirical approach is the developmental approach. Through developmental approach, the political scientists or researchers basically focus on the ecological forces that is coming in the path of the development of any society. That is, we do not focus more on the institutions, that is, the functions of the institutions, outcomes of the institution, but we study the failure of the institution. We study the hurdles that is coming in the path of development of any institution or development of any society, but we consider the ecological factors. Ecological factor means the social factors, right? The environment where the politics is taking place, we study about that environment and we study about the factors that is actually affecting or that is actually creating a problem in the development of any country, right? Example could be, whenever we study the failure of Indian government, rather than focusing on the failure of the democracy or the principles of democracy, rather than focusing on the failure of the functioning of parliament, we try to focus on the failure of the political party. Okay. Now we are not considering any kind of formal institution as such, neither we are studying about the judiciary, legislative or executive, failure of either of them. Okay, but we are focusing on the failure of one factor in the legislation process, right? That is, one particular political party might be ineffective and that is only ruling from a very long period of time, and hence this failure has taken place, right? So this is how we study the developmental approach, or we study anything from the developmental approach. Thank you. That's all about the normative and empirical approaches. So this is all about the empirical approach to the study of Indian politics or Indian political theory. Now when we come to the conclusion of this topic, we see that whatever approach that we studied, whether normative or empirical, they are not contrary to each other. Rather, they are supplementary to each other. They are helping, complementary to each other, right? They are helping each other. Like whenever we try to study anything only from the legal approach, that will not be very fruitful. Okay. But when we include this legal approach with the sociological approach, why not this will be fruitful, right? It could be very fruitful, and when we could come to our desired output or our desired conclusion. So by studying all these topics, we could conclude that all these approaches are equally important to each other when combined amongst them, right? So as we already know, that is, in UPSC's political sciences paper, we have two sets of paper 1 and paper 2. So the syllabus of paper 1's part 1 is political theory. In political theory, we have already completed the approaches. Mainly the approaches comes in political theory. Okay, we are done with political theory. Next we will switch to theory of justice. Okay, we also have theory of state, equality, rights, democracy, that is types of democracy, concept of power, political ideologies, Indian political thought, that is reading about M.K. Gandhi, Aurobindo Ghosh, M.N. Roy, etc. Then Western political thought, Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, etc. Right? We will be dealing about all of these separately one by one. Okay. Stop. Thank you.